Hi everyone, today we're here to talk about the GOAT of badminton rackets. But in case you're wondering, this is a non-alcoholic Corona. Okay, so before you come at me and tell me I'm drinking and filming, it's not, it's a Corona Zero. Lame, I know. But we're not here to talk about that. If you have any questions about this, we can talk about that later. We're here to talk about the GOAT of badminton rackets, which I want to show you. Now, I've talked about, if you've watched my previous videos, I've talked about a lot of modern day rackets, like I've bashed the Nanoflare 1000Z. Thank you for all your comments on that video as well. And as you know, my favorite racket currently is the Astrox 100ZZ. I think it's the best racket, period, and I think most of you should get one in for you. But I want to talk about a racket that I think is the best racket, bar none, period. And I'm going to let you actually play a game here and guess what this racket is. I'm holding it right here, and I don't know if you can see from here, but this is your chance to put your guess down below or on a piece of paper. And then in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to show you what this racket is. Sorry for the focusing here. All right, can you see that? It is the Nanospeed 9900. All right, look at the coloring on this. All right, that's enough. So, look, this racket, if you're new to badminton or if you're young, if you're like, maybe you've only played badminton or been seriously into badminton for about 10 years or so, maybe within the last 5 to 8, you're not going to know what this racket is. So I'm going to give you a primer on what this racket is first, and then I'm going to talk about why it's the best racket, why it's the GOAT. If you already know what this racket is, then skip to the part where I talk about why it's the GOAT. So let's backtrack. We currently have the Astrox lineup, the Arcsaber lineup, and the Nanoflare lineup. That represents Yonex's categorization of head-heavy, even balance, and headlight rackets. But what Yonex likes to do, and I don't know if it's just to shake it up, make more money, or whatnot, is they'll discontinue these series and come out with a new series, and they'll change up some things, but they'll essentially rebrand it while keeping the name similar, except for the head-heavy series. So on the head-heavy side, we have the Astrox currently, which is the head-heavy, but then before Astrox, you would have Valtric, the most famous racket being the Valtric Z Force 2, or the Duora, the most famous being Duora 10 or Duora Z Strike. Those would be the head-heavy. And then if you go way back, it's Armor Tech and Titanium. Video coming soon on that as well. Arcsaber has been the most popular. They've kept that name. It's the even balance lineup. I love it. And then you have the Nanoflare. So currently we talked a lot about the Nanoflare 1000Z, the 800 Pro, 700 Pro. Those are currently the top Nanoflare rackets representing the headlight series. And they're supposed to be like the Nanoflare 800 top of the line racket. Let's just exclude the 1000Z first, because this is very important as I gear up to talk about this Nanospeed. The Nano series is always headlight. It never had a Z frame racket until the previous series. So the predecessor of the Nanoflare was called the Nanoray. And I actually have the Nanoray over there, but I'm too lazy to get it. I've showed and talked about it extensively in my first badminton video, which got a lot of views. And the Nanoflare's top of the line racket was the Nanoflare 900, which is one of my favorite rackets currently, and I highly recommend you play with it if you can. But before the Nanoray was the Nanospeed. It's very important that I talk about this because I'm going to bash the Nanoray, and actually the Nanoflare current gen is actually quite garbage compared to the Nanoray, and the Nanoray is quite garbage compared to Nanospeed, which is why this Nanospeed is the GOAT, because the Nanospeed 9900 right here, in fact I actually have two of them right here. Notice that I don't have strings on them. I'll explain why that is later. Is the GOAT because it's the top of the line Nanospeed, meaning it is the go-to, because you used to have like Nanospeed 9000 and the 7000 as well. And so I'll talk about why this is the GOAT. I'll also talk about why I don't use them. And I want you to also do another guess. Let's play another game and guess how much these two are selling for these days. I bet you won't be able to guess how much these two are selling for. I don't have strings on these because I'm not rich enough to play with them, because I can't afford to break them. But if you are a very wealthy person, honestly, this is the GOAT of rackets. Buy this. Let me preface by saying, if you've watched my videos, you know I'm a head-heavy type of guy. Or Arc Saber 11. I don't like the nanos in any way, shape, or form, except my Nanoflare 900, Nanoray 900, and this Nanospeed 9900. Okay, let's talk about the specs, but in my way. So first of all, it's a 3U racket. They didn't make these in 4U back in the day. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but this actually came in a 2U. So way back, this is like 10, 15 years back, minimum. They used to make rackets 2U by standard, and 3U was light. Nowadays, as you all know, 4U is the standard, and 3U is the heavier version, right? So just keep that in mind. This is a 3U racket. There was no 4U, but I'm telling you, this racket is the GOAT because I'm just going to show you this motion. It's very hard for me to describe it to you without... I wish I could hand you this racket right now and let you try it. But if you do this motion... Okay, I know it's really weird, but this is the only way I can describe this. If you do that motion with any current gen Nano series rackets, actually even the Nanoflare rackets, you're not gonna get this level of feather light. Like the head of this racket feels so light. It's like unlike anything you've touched before. It's so light. Like it's the lightest head, okay? But it's a 3U racket. So naturally, the whip on this is insane. The defense is insane. But at the same time, because it's a 3U racket, the power is insane on this racket. I've seen some of the craziest smashes generated off of this racket, period. Everyone that I talk to at all my badminton groups, a lot of people are looking for this racket. A lot of people want this racket, and that's why I'll show you the price of this racket later, and that's why this racket's the GOAT. This racket generates a smash like you won't even believe. One time, this 15 years ago, I was playing with a friend who is never impressed, always unfazed. I was in backcourt, I generated a smash, and he looked behind me afterwards and was like, wow. And I've never seen that reaction from him. Probably the hardest smash I've ever generated was off of this racket. But it's also so good in defense, so maneuverable, super quick. And so it does everything well. This racket does literally everything well. When they discontinued this racket and came out with the Nanoray series, everybody tried to look for this racket. But when they bought the Nanoray 900, which I have, the natural reaction, which I had for probably a year, 2 years, for the longest time was, what the is this Nanoray? Like, it's garbage. the Nanoray 900 is nothing like the Nanospeed 9900. Everybody was disappointed. I was disappointed. I actually didn't use the Nanoray 900 for years until like maybe 8 years later. Like recently, I started using it again. I'm like, okay, it's pretty good actually. So that just tells you the level of disappointment of people who wanted this Nanospeed 9900 and could not find it again with the newer gen. And then, with the Nanoflare, garbage. Let's not even talk about the current gen Nanoflare 800s, 1000Z. They're all, they don't make them like this anymore. The feel of this is solid, but the stiffness is not overly stiff either. Like, I'm trying to tell you how it's hard for me to like describe to you the difference between current gen Nanoflares and older rackets like this Nanospeed. I feel like the current gen Nanoflares and rackets in general, they make the hit a very soft hit, but they make it overly stiff as well. And it doesn't, it's not enjoyable to play with. I don't think the sweet spot's larger anyway either. The only benefit with current gen rackets, actually there is none because it's more fragile. The sweet spot's smaller. They used to make these really good. They don't break. Well, like, I mean, it's very durable. And the sweet spot's large. Hard hitting sound. A good whip. Not super stiff, but stiff enough. Just a beast of a racket. This is the GOAT. This is truly, truly the GOAT of rackets. Except for another racket, which I'll talk about in another video. But that's why I have two of these. And let's talk about the price of these. And this is very important that I talk about the price and show you the price on this screen, because I want to impart on you some advice, not financial advice, but could be, served me well. And that is Yonex rackets, highest end Yonex rackets like this go up in value. Currently, as it stands 10, 15 years later, after this racket's been released and discontinued, I'm going to show you right here. There's a website in my area of Vancouver, Canada, that most people buy from. It's one of two or three places that people buy badminton stuff from. They're known to have good prices. This is not sponsored at all, by the way. In fact, I don't really buy from them anymore. But they do have the good price, and they're a reliable source of badminton equipment provider here in Vancouver. They're called Yumo, and they sell this racket for $1,000 plus tax. Tax is another 12%. That's $1,000 plus dollars. So if you guessed previously and if you guessed correctly, please let me know, because I'm very impressed if you actually guessed that high. So unfortunately, I'm broke, and so what I've done is I've cut the strings on these, and even though it's the GOAT, I don't use them anymore because I think I'm just gonna keep them for nostalgia and frame them up, and it gives me huge joy to talk to you about this GOAT of a racket here. All right, not financial advice time. So I bought these rackets for typical top of the line Yonex racket pricing. With minus the inflation, I think these were like I think $240 is what I paid for these back in 2013-ish when I bought these. So 12 years ago, I bought these for $240-ish. Actually, come to think of that I don't think the inflation really went up that much, right? So these being worth like $1,000 now. Granted, I know I wouldn't be able to sell them for that high, but let's just say $600. They go up in value, even outpacing inflation or keeping up with inflation. And that's rare of materialistic goods like this. And so I would say a lot of my like my Nanoray 900, I can't buy that back without paying a huge premium for it. And even some of my current rackets, like my Astrox 100ZZ in navy blue, has gone up. And the key lesson that I learned here is if you buy the top of the line Yonex rackets that are actually really good, for me, again, not financial advice, for my experience is that they go up in value. And I'm not looking to sell them or anything. But if you are, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like a lot of people are like, oh, like I'll get the Astrox 88D play or tour. Okay, if you're really struggling financially, then obviously, stay within your budget, get the play or tour or whatever. But I always recommend people get the Pro and get the 100ZZ and get the 88D, 99, whatever it is. Get the highest of the highest. In fact, get two of them so that if you break one, you still have the second one. Because what is the downside if it goes up in value? Now, again, not guaranteed. I can't see the future. I won't be able to tell you if the 100ZZ goes up in value. However, if I was a betting man, I think it will go up in value. Again, not financial advice. Nanospeed 9900, prime example. The beast of an appreciation, the beast of a racket. I wish I could use these. I am too poor to use my own rackets, and they are now gonna be hung up in my wall somewhere. So just a quick video for you guys. Let me know down below if you know what this racket is, or if you have any comments about it, anything to add beyond what I've said. I know some of the people here are even way more knowledgeable about badminton rackets like this than I am. And some of you viewing are beginners and maybe really young and have no clue that this Nanospeed line even existed. So this forum and the comment section is a really good community for us to share our knowledge about interesting rackets like this. And I don't think this content actually exists much on YouTube, so I'm hoping we can build that community together. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next badminton video.